Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo. We are under a week away now, I believe 5 days from the start of free agency tampering period, beginning Monday, March 15th. And of course, free agency officially beginning a week from today on March 17th, I believe at 4 or 3 p.m. Eastern. Joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weiss, and joining us to talk the most important position in football, especially in fantasy football, the deepest position, some might say, the tight end position, discussing free agency. Joining us, Fantasy Mike from Ballblast. Thanks for joining, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Love the whole Club Fantasy crew. So it's the first time in the No Punt Intended cast, though, so I'm excited.
Woo, appreciate you popping on with us, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun today.
He's got the right gear on. He's got a Red Sox hat on.
Oh,
I'm just finally happy to have a true New England fan on, because it seems that we only attract Eagles fans, and that kind of scares me week to week.
That is so funny that you said that, because over at Ballblast, we have about 3 or 4 of them as well. Philly Nation, Eagles Nation runs deep, man. It really does.
They must really hate themselves in Philadelphia to just cheer for
we
that
are
team.
very, very self-deprecating.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Must really hate yourselves to cheer for that team. All right, let's get into actually what has happened outside of the tight end position so far. But today, we've seen a lot of franchise tags, but tagged Allen Robinson and Chris Godwin. So 2 guys we talked about last week. We now know where they're going to be. That's not too much of an issue. Marcus May from the New York Jets. He's a safety for those unaware. Taylor Morton and Cam Robinson, 2 tackles tagged for Carolina and Jacksonville. On the offensive line as well, Brandon Sheriff for the Washington football team. Leonard Williams was tagged for the Giants after having a really good year last year. And Justin Simmons and Marcus Williams at the safety position tagged for both Denver and New Orleans. Justin Simmons being the much better player of the 2 of those there. Dak Prescott also technically got the franchise tag, but he got the extension. 4 years, $160 million. I believe it's $76 million guaranteed in the first year. Some dumb number like that.
$6 million signing bonus.
Yeah. I'd say he's walking away with $76 million after the first year with the signing bonus in the first year contract. So
yeah, absolutely nuts. Good for him. I don't know if again, every quarterback's just going to set the market at this point. If Jared Goff gets $35 million, Dak deserves $100. So
Cleveland fans got really upset when people kind of alluded to the fact that Baker Mayfield was happy with this deal. And Cleveland fans who like Baker are like, why? He shouldn't be getting anything near that. And it's like, well, we all just calm down, because you're right, Joe. It's just going to keep getting higher.
It's just going to keep getting higher. And I'm going to reiterate this, because I said it, I believe, last week, or maybe it might have been during our quarterback show. The team with the highest paid quarterback has never won a Super Bowl since the start of 2000, I believe.
Whatever keeps Dallas out of the Super Bowl, I don't give a damn.
I mean, Dallas keeps themselves out of the Super Bowl. Let's be real here. It has nothing to do with their quarterback.
That's okay. But according to you, that quarterback will keep them out, so I'm okay with it.
So, yep, exactly. Tendered. Gus Edwards got the 2nd round tender, so he will stay in Baltimore. I think that was very smart of the Ravens. And now we head into discussing our free agent tight ends, which, again, super deep class. Let's be honest here. We're going to talk super deep about these guys. Hunter Henry leads off this unbelievable class of tight ends. Who's second, you might add? Hall of Famer Rob Gronkowski. And then old white guy, Kyle Rudolph. Old black guy, Jared Cook. Bad white guy, Tyler Kroft. Also bad white guy, Tyler Eifert. You guessed it, another bad white guy, Jacob Hollister. I actually like Jacob Hollister. I'm not going to crap on Jacob Hollister. I was mad that the Patriots traded him for a 7th round pick. I do like Jacob Hollister. I believe in him. Gerald Everett, bad. Jordan Reed, just retire. You've had too many injuries. Trey Burton, bad. He's better at quarterback. Richard Rodgers, bad. Jono Smith, a great blocking tight end. Darrell Daniels, Josh's favorite tight end in the universe. Jake Butt, funniest name in the NFL. Robert Tonyan, actually good. Dan Arnold, loves dropping the football in crucial situations. Mo Alley Cox will forever be a 3rd-string tight end. So, who are we talking about first, guys? Who do we want to talk about? This list of unbelievable free agents. Mike, who do you want to talk about first?
Well, I think, just like in fantasy, outside the top 5, it doesn't really matter. But let's, focus a little bit on real life football and who can actually be helpful for the tight end position, because we always get so caught up in the numbers, the fantasy numbers, but tight ends also do a lot more than just catch the football. So I think this year, really just Hunter Henry and Jono Smith, honest to God, are the only ones I care about. Maybe Gerald Everett. I wouldn't call Gerald Everett bad necessarily. I'd call Jared Goff bad, and maybe he could be, he might have had a few more flashes with a quarterback that used him correctly, because I do like his profile. But those are the three that I'm really looking at, and I think that the interesting part comes in trying to match those guys up with different teams, because Jono Smith and Gerald Everett are much different than Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is more of that kind of inline blocking, short area type guy. But Jono Smith and Gerald Everett are two of those who are kind of that new age tight end, those athletic move tight ends that actually might get you a little more excited for fantasy. So, just got a couple ideas for a few landing spots for each, and, a few needy teams. So, but it's not a super, super deep class this offseason.
Yeah.
Not at all. And just quickly, because I know Tunyon is one of the big names out here. Does anyone here think he's not back in Green Bay? I think all of us here think he's back in Green Bay, considering he's restricted.
So
so
at least a second.
I was gonna say, how long do they have to tender him?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, no, he's a restricted free agent, so
they can just match.
Yeah, they can match the offer.
Okay.
So if he gets an offer, they then have, I think, 48 hours or 72 hours to match that offer.
Okay.
I would imagine the Packers will match that offer. Yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers' second favorite target.
I mean, unless somebody goes through and offers him 10 or 12 million,
that's steep.
Yeah, but
I think most people believe Tunyon's going to end up back in Green Bay. So,
and I think we can scratch Gronk off too. I mean, it's pretty clear he's going back to Tampa. So.
It's Tampa Bay or retirement.
And when you look at Tunyon, he's being restricted, and very rarely do you see, especially for a tight end, a team that's going to go out and not only pay somebody, but then also kind of give up more in order to get that person too. So that's a big part of it. And Tunyon's a really interesting character, because he kind of came out of nowhere last year. He's somebody who in the middle of the season, I was like, oh, this is great. He's going to be the next great tight end, because I've talked about this before. The myth that Aaron Rodgers doesn't use tight ends, it's a false narrative. For a few years, he just didn't have great tight ends, but some of the youngins may not remember this guy, but Jermichael Finley had a couple good years. And then Jimmy Graham was top 3 in targets on that team for 3 straight years. So
I don't even want to hear words about Jimmy Graham. You can leave, sir.
No. You're not picking up what I'm saying. I'm not saying Jimmy Graham's relevant. I'm saying that he
got targets.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is he's going to be using that offense, and they do think that Tunyon is going to go back to Green Bay for sure. I don't think there's any way he's not a Packer next year.
But we all have to agree touchdown regression is going to come and hit him hard, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, do we see Aaron Rodgers throwing for, what did he throw for, 48 touchdowns or something? Like, there's no way he does that again.
And it was like the second highest touchdown percentage of his career, and then it typically drops tremendously the next season. So you're essentially looking at Patrick Mahomes, 55 touchdown season. You're going to see a huge dip, and I think Tunyon's going to pay the price on that. So
yeah, I mean, Tunyon had 11 touchdowns and 52 catches.
It's insane.
There's no way he's going to replicate that.
I mean, his big breakout game, he had 3 touchdowns. So again,
he only had 59 targets on the year.
Yeah. He's going to be overdrafted in redraft leagues, most likely. But if he ends up falling to you in like the 8th or 9th round, and he's one of the best available, I don't see why you don't pull the trigger on Tunyon, because he can have a big game here and there. And also at that point, in the 8th or 9th round, you're getting Hunter Henry, Jared Cook. Like, you're not getting anyone good at that point for a tight end. So that's when you bite the bullet and take Tunyon if you want to do that in that instance. But
he's a guy that you want to chase touchdown upside with too, especially that position, that late. Yep. I mean, really, unless you're in a tight end premium and there might be a tight end who is going to get more catches or is guaranteed more volume in those targets, go for the touchdown upside. So, I mean, I would much rather take the chance on Aaron Rodgers as tight end than, Teddy Bridgewater's. I mean, remember how we all fell for I didn't really, but for Ian Thomas last year?
Nor did I.
Nobody did in this room.
Wow.
Warren Carpenter did, though.
Yeah, nobody in this room currently ever fell for Ian Thomas. But I mean, Mike, you bring up a good point. Is if your tight end has one catch for 10 yards and a touchdown, 8 points might make him a top 10 tight end that week.
Yeah, he's top 14 for sure.
Yeah, like he's a startable tight end in your league if he scores a touchdown. So, good guy to chase touchdown upside with. You're correct there. A bad guy to chase touchdown upside with, Hunter Henry. Seems to be allergic to the end zone. I don't really know where this guy is going to end up. There's been rumors of New England because they need a tight end. Sign a quarterback first. Does he end up back in Los Angeles? If he does, he just kind of stays the same. If he goes somewhere else, do they feature him more? I don't know what you have for a landing spot, Mike, and what you prefer and where you may think he ends up. But what are your thoughts on Hunter Henry?
Hunter Henry, the perfect landing spot for me, and I'd love to see him go to, is Cincinnati. Because again, you have to look at the different types of tight ends that are available on the market and where those fits are. First and foremost, I'm just going to get it out of the way. I don't want any tight ends going to the Buffalo Bills. I know that everyone is all over that, and they're excited about Josh Allen. And yes, they just released John Brown, but you look at what Dawson Knox did in that offense. He really didn't do much. And there's still 3 very, very good receivers. And Josh Allen still runs the ball a whole lot. So he's not even.
They just released John Brown today.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what
he said.
No, there's 3 though, because Gabe Davis, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs.
Fair enough.
So that's still 3 pretty good receivers. And I actually wrote a thread a few weeks ago, about Cole Beasley being a dying dynasty, and I got ripped for it because I was expecting John Brown to get cut. So I just think that Josh Allen and Brian Dable are more focused on, going through the wide receivers. They run some of the highest rates of 3 wide receiver sets in the league. So I just don't love Buffalo for any tight end. But Cincinnati, I think, is one that could be great for Hunter Henry because you have Higgins on the outside. You have a great slot receiver in Tyler Boyd. And Hunter Henry can be that reliable checkdown option, especially for Burrow coming off that ACL injury. That nice, solid guy to have over the middle of the field. Drew Sample just ain't getting it done. And since he has the money to go out and get a guy like Henry, so I'd actually like to see him win in Cincinnati.
Well, Sample's more of a blocking tight end. I mean, that was the case even when they spent a 2nd-round pick on the guy.
Exactly.
So, I mean, CJ Uzoma was kind of that, get out in the middle of the field type. That's kind of why I was thinking, they might, instead of going higher profile with someone like Hunter Henry, who just made $8 million on the franchise tag, they go for a lesser tier option, maybe someone like a Dan Arnold or Gerald Everett, that can play that, work in space and let Sample stay in and block. But I don't hate Cincinnati for Hunter Henry, but one spot that I thought would be interesting, especially if they move on from their current number 1 tight end. How about the Giants? We saw in the beginning of the year how Jason Garrett was trying to fit this athletic freak in Evan Ingram into a
Jason Witten
type role.
Yeah.
That's a role that Hunter Henry, who isn't near as athletic, could fill. He's not going to be a big touchdown guy. He can score if need be, but he works in between the 20s very, very well. Over 600 receiving yards both of the last 2 years, and last year he did it, or in 2019 he did it in only 12 games. So this is a guy who can work in between the 20s very well. He's only scored 9 touchdowns in the last 2 years. 4 more his 2nd year, and I think he boomed in his rookie year. He had 8 touchdowns or something, but that's not his forte. And obviously, you're getting Saquon back. Red zone's going to be his area anyway. And if they end up going out and signing a big wide receiver, I know Galladay's being linked there. I think that's somebody that can really work that middle of the field and really help that offense. Again, this is predicated on them moving on from Ingram, who clearly has a lot of drop issues. But I still think if they put Ingram out on the trade block, some team is going to call.
As well they should. He's still a very good receiver. You nailed it. I mean, Jason Garrett, I'm just going to I'm going to fill you in on something, guys, something that just happened, and it's really tearing my soul apart. So we're doing a startup with the Ballblast crew right now. And it just went off the rails for me in the middle of the draft. I was expecting to get Tom Brady at the 6-11, and he got stolen 2 picks before me, and I freaked out. I just absolutely freaked out. So they have 1 quarterback. Basically what happened was I had to trade T. Higgins, okay, in order to get Daniel Jones, and it scares the crap out of me. I know how bad that is. I know how bad it is. I have 3 other good receivers already too, but it's just that's what scares me about that offense is it's Jason Garrett, and I think you're right that kind of replacing Ingram with more of a Witten type, so that that like I said, that short area, real strong presence would actually make a lot of sense for the Giants. But I just don't know what they're going to fetch for Ingram. at this point, because he just, I guess the NFL is probably higher on him than the fantasy community is, but he absolutely should be a value, for sure. No question. He's just not used right by Jason Garrett, and that's the problem.
No, of course not.
For me, when I was digging into the numbers, Cincinnati scared me off a little bit because I did the exact same thing as you, Mike. I went and looked at Arizona and Buffalo, where everyone wants these tight ends to go, and they had only targeted the tight ends 67 and 68 times last year, respectively. Cincinnati was only at 72, and I don't know the splits with Burrow, without Burrow, but then they were over 100 the year before. So for me, I was looking for a team where I thought he would fit in very well, a team that wants to maybe run the ball. Josh, you brought up, with the Giants where they wouldn't need him in the red zone. And I landed on Indianapolis or Seattle. I feel like if he went to either of those two teams, I feel like he'd give Wentz a wonderful safety blanket in Indianapolis, something he's used to from his time in Philly. But then Russell Wilson, you don't really need the safety blanket. You have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and then Hunter Henry could end up being the third option. Again, going back to what Mike said to start the show, not great for fantasy whatsoever, but it could play out very well to push Seattle over a hump or help Indianapolis do something this year that doesn't involve Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I actually have Indy in my notes for Hunter Henry. I just wanted to bring up the Giants thing because I figured Indy was an obvious one that somebody would touch on.
There you go. That's right.
So thanks, Ryan.
I'll pick up that slack, buddy.
I think Joe Burrow likes tight ends. I
want to go and dig into the splits because their 2019 was so different from their 2020, and then the beginning of 2020 versus the end of 2020 are two completely different seasons. So it's something I'll dig into probably after they sign a tight end, because if they don't get anybody good, I'm not going to care. So I mean, I don't, Josh, you said they may go with a lower name tight end. They already have a lower name tight end in CJ Uzomah. The dude's 6'6", 260.
Well, no, I understand that, but it's all about where you want to allocate your dollars. I mean, they just paid Joe Mixon.
Sure.
They're paying a running back top dollar. So then it becomes, all right, you've got 8 or, whatever the franchise tag was for wide receivers coming off the books with AJ Green. If you re-sign him, he's not going to get anything close to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Boyd's making 10, 11 million a year as a slot receiver. Their defense really needs a lot of help. Maybe you want to put dollars there. So maybe you don't shell out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million to Hunter Henry or whatever the hell his going rate's going to end up being.
Yep.
Didn't we just get an argument about this like 2 weeks ago about how much Hunter Henry was going to get paid?
Yeah.
So just to add in here, so Uzomah in his first 2 games, and he got hurt midway through the game in Cleveland week 2. He had 11 targets, 8 catches, just about 85 yards, in a touchdown. So he averaged 4 catches each game, 40 plus yards, and half a touchdown in those 2 games. In that one game with Cleveland, him and Drew Sample combined for 15 targets. So they put up a lot of stuff. And Josh, I believe you said it. Drew Sample is a blocking tight end.
That's it.
So
he had one good game. I think it was that game against Cleveland when Uzomah went out. He had 9 catches for 95 yards or something like that, and then did nothing the rest of the year.
He was 7 for 45.
Tight end perennially.
Yeah. He was 7 for 45, and then another game against Miami, he was 7 for 49, and his lone touchdown came against Houston. But again, we talked about he's a blocking tight end, but when they wanted to involve him in the offense, he got involved. You can tell there's games where he's targeted no more than 1 time or 2 times, and then there's games where he's targeted 4, 5, 7 times. So there's games when he's involved in the offense. But again, we know he's involved more in a blocking role. If a guy like Hunter Henry goes there, he'll be used not only in a blocking role, but also in a passing role. So you could probably see CJ Uzomah type numbers where he's getting targeted 6, 7, 8 times a game, catching 50 to 60% of those in ending up in the end zone once every 3 games or something like that.
I mean, if you think he could hit 6 per game, that's literally top 10 tight end numbers there at 100 targets. So
we also don't know what we're going to get from Burrow either. Again, especially
when we're going to get it.
Well, right. One thing I guess I wanted to ask your thoughts on was the fact that at 6 there are some mocks that I see them going after wide receiver. I just can't see it. I think that they need to get more protection for Burrow. They need to improve that line, and that's why I can see them going out and spending on a tight end this offseason, because there's over 100 vacated targets with the absence of AJ Green.
Or do they do both and just take Pitts at 6?
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say
that would be juicy too?
Did you say AJ Green had 100 targets last year?
Yeah, he did.
104 targets.
Yeah.
And like 53 of them were catchable.
Yeah, he only had like 48 receptions last year. Like, it was one of the absolute worst catch rates I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I talked about this last week when we talked about the old guys at receiver. AJ Green's gonna catch it if it hits him in the hands. The issue is
Can't get there anymore.
His catch radius has gone from like 8 feet to 2. That's the issue.
I wish I could give credit to the person. I just saw a thread yesterday about how horribly inaccurate Joe Burrow's deep ball was in year 1. And it's almost alarming unless you're expecting major year 2 improvement. So that could play into what happened with Green as well.
T. Higgins is a beast. Who cares?
Yeah, sure.
T. Higgins is
T.
a baller.
Higgins has that 8-foot catch radius.
Yeah,
So-
definitely.
It still hurts.
Yeah, so definitely not a guy I would trade for Daniel Jones.
It's a super quick. No, I had to switch it out. I got extra picks too. It wasn't straight up.
I figured.
It was just like, I freaked when Brady was there. And then here's the worst part. Just a couple picks ago, I could have just had Daniel Jones and kept T. Higgins, but I'm like, no, I don't need a quarterback. So I took Laviska Shenault, who I like, but I could have just had Daniel Jones and kept T. Higgins instead. I have the 111 too, so I'm just praying that one of my top receivers is there. But
There you go.
yeah, Cincinnati talk makes me want to cry right now. And your listeners probably think I'm the worst guest that you've had in a very long time for making that trade. But I swear, it's just I had to do what I had to do.
Hey,
You had to do what you had to do.
In 2 QB leagues, things get weird, man.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You see some of the absolute worst trades because people get so desperate for quarterback, not realizing that you can actually put someone else other than a quarterback in that super flex spot.
You can, but it puts you at a disadvantage. But I have Mahomes.
Well, but again, it's like if you're putting even like an RB2 there versus the QB 23, it really isn't going to matter as much as people think.
So
True. Yeah.
So I want to toot the horn a little bit because when we were talking rookies last year, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks, correct? Because we have our free agency show next week. 3 weeks. I'm a moron. I don't make the shows. I just show up and talk. We talked about T. Higgins, and I said I think Cincinnati takes him because he's literally AJ Green 2.0.
Yeah.
First pick of the second round.
Thank you, Cincinnati and T. Higgins for proving me correct there because he is literally AJ Green 2.0.
Yeah, their size and metrics were insane.
They were I think the only difference in terms of like any measurables was their weight was like 8 pounds different. T. Higgins is like 8 pounds heavier, but almost everything else was the same. And it was unreal, absolutely unreal. Clemson churns out receivers. So all of them are good except Mike Williams, who can't figure it out. So
he will be.
That's what I said last year.
I know. That's what we're gonna all keep saying.
Guess who I'm gonna hate myself for doing this. Guess who's gonna be my sleeper for the LA Chargers this year? Mike Williams, and I'm gonna hate myself for it. Nope, Mike Williams. I'm gonna hate myself for it.
Jalen Guyton.
Ooh,
yeah, there you go.
No, Mike Williams, because
you know what I did on the field. Burrow,
you know what I did?
Herbert will hit you.
You know what I did? For 3 straight years, I had John Ross as my sleeper on the Cincinnati Bengals. And for the last 2, I just said, there's nobody else you want me to put here, guys. That was the second year. And then the third year, I said, might as well just keep the theme of bad picks in Cincinnati. John Ross is an absolute garbage can. So, yeah, Mike Williams is my new John Ross.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's funny that in the same world that John Ross exists, we still talk about 40 times for wide receivers.
How about Tavon Austin?
Tavon Austin at least did things for once or twice.
Not at receiver.
Fair enough.
Is a punt returner. I get too early to call, but Henry Ruggs.
Oh yeah, I'll hold my breath on that one.
Yeah, too early to call on Henry Ruggs. At least he caught a deep ball to win the game against the New York Jets. Am I right?
Yeah.
Against a engage 8 blitz with 3 safeties back. Great call, Greg Williams.
After they had called the same play the play before.
Yep. Great call, Greg Williams. You're an absolutely fantastic defensive coordinator. All right. Who is Jono Smith? That's the last guy I really want to talk about. I really could give two shits about these other guys.
I have so many notes on so many tight ends, and you're just going to waste my research.
Yes. What note do you have on fucking Trey Burton?
Hold on. Let me go find it.
Dump truck of an ass, and someone should sign him for that reason. That's the only note you need to have on Trey Burton.
I said re-signing to play with Wentz seems like a lock. If not, any team looking for a tight end would be better off with Trey Burton than letting him rest as the third tight end on Indianapolis.
Well, Mo Alley Cox has a third tight end locked up, so I don't know what you're talking about there.
Last year, Burton, I think, played the third most snaps.
Okay. So, you know what? Since I'd love to hear what you have on Jake Butt.
Does not matter. Literally, words say does not matter.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. Okay? So let's
for
talk.
Gerald Daniels. I have cede my time to Josh.
I literally put him on the show sheet because we talked about it for like 2 weeks.
One time. You were a week early. You were a week early on his touchdown or something like that.
Yep. And wasn't it the first touchdown of the game the very next week?
I think it was.
You were literally 7 minutes late.
Oh, it's unreal. All right. Let's talk Jono Smith. Everyone was super high on him. Josh, I think you had him as your tight end 8 or something heading into.
I had him top 10 going into the season in my way too early rankings around this time last year. He
got him at 5.
Tight end 5. Yeah, he was. And he started off great.
I actually started to fade towards the end there.
And then Taylor Lewan got hurt, and Jonnu ran a lot less routes, and that was that. Still had touchdowns. He was number 1 among tight ends this year in touchdowns inside the 5. He was second among all tight ends behind Travis Kelce in touchdowns inside the red zone period. So, and again, what you're looking for from tight ends, touchdowns. And Jonnu was doing this in an offense with Derrick Henry.
Okay. So I was just about to say he benefits in the red zone from Derrick Henry, because if I'm the defense, I'm blitzing 11 guys inside the 10 to stop the run. I don't care who's catching the ball. Derrick Henry better not be running the football in if I'm playing Tennessee inside the red zone. So at that point, like Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry has 3 touchdowns in the game. They're on the 2-yard line. Ryan Tannehill pulls it. He literally could have moonwalked into the end zone on those read option touchdowns. Jono Smith benefits from the same thing Ryan Tannehill does on the ground. Jono Smith is playing one-on-one coverage, and the dude is built like a receiver. He's built like a tight end with wide receiver capabilities. And also, he's a fantastic blocking tight end. For a guy who's just straight athletic, he's a really good blocking tight end. So if he stays in Tennessee, I like his value. I love his value. If he goes elsewhere, don't expect those red zone touchdowns to stay up like that. Because unless he's in an offense like Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, that's really my only comparison. Who else is that dominant in the red zone? It's just
so I want to chime in with my thoughts really quick because Mike and I, we've kind of talked a little bit about Jonnu because we're both big fans. So in terms of real life, the obvious players here, I'd love to see him in Arizona. I'd love to see him in Buffalo for real life, simply because that is one more additional weapon on 2 really good offenses. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to translate in fantasy, because neither of those teams have shown the prowess to feature a tight end, especially when both of them have dominant receivers. Both of them have so-so running games, but both of them have quarterbacks who are very, very good inside the red zone. Josh Allen was number 1 among quarterbacks in total touchdowns inside the 5 last year. 14 passing and 7 rushing. But outside of that, if we're talking fantasy wise, I agree with you, Joe. I would love to see him back in Tennessee, but I'm going to throw another team out there. How about the Jets? And I talked about this previously with Mike LaFleur coming in as the new offensive coordinator now. We've seen Kyle Shanahan's offense feature a wide receiver 1, which he had in Atlanta with Julio Jones. But we've also seen him feature an absolute stud tight end in George Kittle. If Mike LaFleur learns anything, If they can bring in a number one tight end a la Jonnu, but don't really have that number one wide receiver, you could see top 3 numbers from Jonnu with the Jets. Obviously, a lot depends on what they do elsewhere with the line and the quarterback, etc. But just from an opportunity perspective with the amount of targets, I like that volume because this is somebody that can find the end zone.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Chris Herndon, the Jets, because I want to bring up Chris Herndon. They're actually very similar players. I do think that Jonnu is a tad more explosive. I do just want to say that, I mean, you watch some of his tape, that guy, just his stride, tight end should not be able to move like he can. I mean, he's a very, very talented player. And I do believe that it was a matter of, yes, Lawan got hurt. He had to block a little bit more. Josh, you and I talked about it. So Kate Majuk over at Ballblast Football, said that it was a false narrative. But going back and looking at the snaps, it really did seem like once Lawan went down, they stopped using Smith as much. So I'd like to see him go somewhere where he's utilized more. But in Buffalo, or with the Jets, I mean, Chris Herndon, it wasn't that he was playing bad. They did the same exact thing to him last year. He was using all those pass blocking snaps. So they would just
that's just Adam Gase being Adam Gase.
Yeah, new team now.
100%. So, but what I'm saying is, and especially with the new offensive system in there, I get that. I still have hope for Chris Herndon, and I just think it would kind of be a waste for everybody involved. My sneaky one is I would love to see him go to Carolina because, again, we brought up the Ian Thomas thing, but with people like Matt Rule and Joe Brady and actually working in a system with a really innovative offensive mind or two at the helm, and then you have guys like DJ Moore, who's going to take the top off defenses. Robbie Anderson had a great year last year as well. I think that would allow Jonnu to operate more. Plus, you have to worry about CMC coming out of the backfield. So I think that if you for Jono Smith, you need to create space. You need to get him open in space, and I think that would be the perfect offensive scheme for him.
That's putting a lot of faith that they're just going to change that offense completely. And I'm not saying it can't happen.
They're also probably going to lose Curtis Samuel.
Well, and that's
a
good point too. If they re-sign him, there's no point, and they would have to let him go in order to bring Jonnu in.
Yeah, it just depends on what they see the tight end being in their offense. So
it's interesting. Jono Smith has taken snaps at running back. Maybe he could play the Curtis Samuel role.
There we go.
He can move. I mean, he can't move.
He was a wide receiver 25 in fantasy last year. So
was Curtis what?
Curtis Samuel was wide receiver 25 in fantasy last year.
What the fuck was last season? What the fuck was last season?
So my team for Jonnu's an outsider team.
Bridgewater was terrible. It had 3 top 25 wide receivers in fantasy.
I say them in Pittsburgh, 3 top 25s. Their quarterback didn't finish in the top 15.
That goes to show you when people say, how do you have a receiver as an upside, but the quarterback is a downside? There's your exhibit right there. That's your exhibit right there.
A and B right there.
Oh my God.
Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're fine. I like Jacksonville for Jonnu, just on a sheer target standpoint. They targeted the tight end 100 times last year, and I understand it's a whole new system. With Bevel as OC last 2 years in Detroit, over 100 targets for the tight end in both of those systems as well. So I think it's something where they need somebody who can help Trevor Lawrence as much as possible, and Jonnu is a guy who I think fits that.
For sure. I actually had Everett pegged to them too, but Jonnu, I mean, I'd rather have Jonnu than Everett. So that actually does make a lot of sense, and especially for a guy like Lawrence too, give him a nice option there. Yeah. I
think Everett is just Jonnu light. They're both very athletic guys.
And that's the whole thing is we're not going to see people.
Everett is a very underrated blocker. He really is.
Yeah. I mean,
he kind of fought with Higbee so much in LA because Higbee was someone who's a great blocker as well. But what really shocked me was how he still didn't get all the targets. Yeah. Like still throwing it to Higbee. I know Higbee had that great stretch run, but I just like with Jonnu, I think that he wasn't used correctly. Had a great profile coming out of school, and I'd really like to see him somewhere else.
Yeah, what bothers me about both of them is how much Johnny Munt was still playing there because he's a better blocker than both of them, and it's so like there's a question for both of them in their blocking category, Higbee and Everett. So
it's just Josh telling me that Gerald Everett's an underrated blocker. Sounds like Chiefs fans telling me Travis Kelce can block at all. So it's just it goes in one ear out the other. Doesn't work like that. Gerald Everett's not a blocker. Sorry.
Kelce's never ranked high in Pro Football Focus's blocking grades. Everett
Since we keep bringing him up,
has.
Everett's the guy I want to go to New England. Since we keep bringing him up,
I'll pass on that. Thank you.
I'd like to see him in Arizona personally, but
the reason why I don't want him going to New England, or I would rather, I still want to see what we have in Devin Asiasi. I think, he's somebody who had some flashes in the air, and I think that they're very similar. Who I'd rather see is someone like Kyle Rudolph, because again, we just need a reliable target. I
literally wrote next to Rudolph, lock to New England question.
And it is, and I'm not the first to say it. I mean, they actually were last year. There was rumors,
exactly at the trade deadline
too. Yep. So. But that to me is what they need. They just need a reliable target. Joe, we were talking about last. I mean, Damiere Byrd played 1 trillion% of snaps and couldn't do anything with them. Jacoby Myers is a great number 3. N'Keal Harry is one of the worst football players I've ever seen in my entire life. And so, like, he's really bad.
Okay, no, N'Keal's terrible. No,
I do want to throw one quick thing out before Joe goes in on New England. Oddly enough, Mike, I literally put Rudolph locked to New England, and then I put with Everett ? Like, I'd like to see them both go there. Now, obviously, I like Asiasi as well, so I don't want to see that happen. But I feel like for New England, it might not be the worst move. So go ahead, Joe. Tell us why we're all wrong.
So the two tight end sets is something that they tried to feature before. That guy kind of went down the path, and they were going to have a pretty nice little pair there for a while. So maybe they want to get that back.
So as Ryan said, I'll tell you all you guys why you're wrong. Just a weekly occurrence here. Okay. New England likes tight ends that can block. We've already discussed that Gerald Everett is not a great blocker. He's a solid blocker, not a great blocker. Who's Kyle Rudolph? Oh, look, a white tight end is linked to New England. Guess who the other tight end that was linked to New England? Oh my God, what was his name? I just forgot about who was the other name that was linked to New England.
Well, Hunter Henry was the first.
Hunter Henry, thank you.
England,
that was the other guy linked to New England. Look, 2 white tight ends. Shocking.
Someone else said today, are we just going to link every aging veteran to New England? Like, is that just what we're doing now?
That's what we do. On Damiere Byrd, he was open. His quarterback didn't know how to throw the football.
A little bit of both. There's shades of gray there. I'm sorry. Damiere Byrd is starting.
It feels like a perfect segue to Joe's list.
Snaps every week. I'm sorry. On 90% of the teams in the NFL, Damiere Byrd is not playing more than 60% of the snaps, let alone 90 every week. Come on.
Let alone leading the team in snaps played.
Mike.
Yes.
Did you see the deep V route that Damiere Byrd ran and toasted the Houston secondary on, in that Cam Newton did a check down because he knew he couldn't throw the football 30 yards downfield? That's where Damiere Byrd lived. Cam Newton was like, and he couldn't get it there. Damiere Byrd was
again,
open.
We've talked about that. Like I said, Cam Newton half the time looked like he was skipping rocks last year. I mean, it was horrible. It was just going in the dirt. But again, fast guys are going to be covered sometimes. If you're really fast, which Byrd is, you're going to get open sometimes. But I'm sorry, he is not anything close to a number 2 receiver, let alone a number 1 receiver on the team. And like I said, so that is it's a little bit of both. For as bad as Cam was, and I'm with you, they have 0 talent on the offensive side of the ball in New England and a lot of the skill positions, and it's bad. I've never seen such a pathetic group of talent on any Patriots team in my entire life. It's horrible. It's absolutely atrocious.
Hey, Joe. Yeah. How bad was Cam?
Is that the segue we're going? Yeah, because 40 minutes.
Might as well.
Who cares about the other tight ends at this point, right? Let's. I'll run you through my analysis.
Here's the summary that all you need to know with tight ends. They're all suck.
Plain
and simple. And if you're not Travis Kelce, if you're not Darren Waller, if you're not George Kittle,
it doesn't matter.
It's a crapshoot.
So I just want to say before we get into the New England thing, you're 100% right, and that's why you'll see in my profile, it's Travis Kelce over everything. I mean, yes. I am fine with Travis Kelce as a first-round pick this year, and anyone that tells you otherwise, I don't get it. Like the advantage that you have by getting an elite tight end, there is just nothing like it in fantasy football. There just isn't, especially in tight end premium leagues. I know most people don't play that, but if you don't get a top 3 tight end, it's really like, honestly, who cares? What was the difference between the tight end 8 and 16? Was like 8 points or something ridiculous. It wasn't even like 10 points.
Yeah, it was tiny.
So it's like that's the biggest thing. And I will say it. I wrote it for Ballblast last year, my strategy guide. If you don't have a tight end within the first 3 rounds, I I just don't think you're going to have a very
first or last.
Yeah, I think we hit on that too, Ryan. Yeah, who was right on that one, buddy?
You made me write an article. How many leagues? You traded me Travis Kelce.
I had Mark Andrews. I'm sorry.
No, I do want to throw out. It's first or last. Mike is absolutely right, but there's one thing I want to add. If you stream correctly, you can build a top 5 tight end with no problem just by playing the matchups. And I'll be giving you
Dream Master
matchups.
General. Right
there is a lot of that, though, but you're right. I like you.
For the record, I didn't draft a tight end until the double-digit rounds and made the playoffs in every single one of my leagues. So
yeah,
but
did
you win
first or last?
I don't mean to be an angle, but the first year I had Kelce, I won my first ever title. It was night and day. And then the guy I played had George Kittle. It's just like it's I don't know. It's such a big advantage. And yes, you can build the rest of your roster, but I just don't.
So Mike, I'm going to tell you, I walked into the championship in week 16. Head high, knew I had a tough matchup. And then Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs decided to, combine for 120 points in my league. So no chance. The guy I played put up 250. I lost. That was not because of the tight end. That was because Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs decided to shove their what's right up my behind. That's what they decided to do.
I have one more name I want to throw out before we get into Cam, and we kind of joked about him, but if he is healthy, I have a dream landing spot that if Jordan Reed were to go to Seattle, and I know I brought up Seattle earlier, but I feel like that is the perfect fit. If he is concussion-free and ready to play some football, it stays in the division, which we talked about a lot of free agents like to do. Jordan Reed to Seattle would make me smile to end to end.
End to end, just like Amazon, A to Z.
That's right.
Yeah,
no, that's what I'd really like to see. But it should be. Give us money.
Give us money, Amazon. Real quickly on Lee's point before we get to the Cam Newton list. So the Patriots only threw their tight ends 33 times last season, by far the lowest in the NFL. Do they have a tight end problem or a quarterback problem? If Rudolph comes in, does that number come up to 44?
They had an offense problem.
I think they have a tight end.
Hold on. Since Rob Gronkowski has stopped playing for the New England Patriots for the past 2 seasons, the Patriots have targeted the tight end the lowest amount in the NFL, and I think it's like the next closest team is over double the amount of targets that the Patriots have.
Wow.
So from 32 to 31, they've doubled the Patriots' targets at the tight end position. And I will say it's a little bit of both, but it's a tight end problem. They had Ben Watson last year and Ryan Izzo, or 2 years ago. So Ben Watson and Ryan Izzo 2 years ago. They had Ryan Izzo, Devin Asiasi, and Dalton Keene last year.
Aging vets who well past their prime, and then rookies at a position that always take forever to develop.
Yeah. So it's both. I put 99% of it on Cam Newton because he's hot shit. But no, they haven't had good tight ends, Lee. It's that simple. They haven't had good tight ends. They've punted on the position because they had Rob Gronkowski forever. They've had him since 2010. Why would you need another tight end? They just punted on the position.
Well, I was gonna say, and unlike some of these other teams where we're really down on their number of targets, we've seen this exact system in New England target the tight end. So if they have the right guy, every expectation is that they would use him properly. So
100%. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make in fantasy is they just look at last year. Like that's it. It's just that the year before is all that matters. And let's not look at the track record for a guy who's been coaching in New England for over 20 years now. It's like, or just about 20 years now. Bill Belichick loves a tight end. Josh McDaniel loves a tight end. It is a tight end problem. They were rolling with Steven Anderson at one point. Joe, you mentioned earlier Jacob Hollister, who's in. I
love Jacob Hollister.
Decent number 2. I will say that. I do like Jacob Hollister, but I mean, come on,
he can't block.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. They just haven't had it. And do I think Rudolph is going to change the game? No, but if you add a couple receivers, I do think that he is a nice, reliable target. And they will target him more, especially in the red zone. So I do think, as Joe said, it's much more of a tight end talent problem than suddenly McDaniels just doesn't want to use tight ends in his offense. I don't think that's true at all.
And that's where they miss their tight ends is the red zone. Rob Gronkowski, especially later in his time in New England, he was injured, so he couldn't really do much. His job was block and be a red zone threat. He did it. Was the best in the NFL at it at the time. And now, if you get a guy like Kyle Rudolph, what did Minnesota ask him to do? Block and be a red zone threat. That's exactly what Minnesota asked him to do. So I think Rudolph is a perfect fit in New England just because he's literally going from one system to the next where he's doing the exact same thing. Yep. And it is a tight end problem. They need tight ends in the red zone. 100%. Yep. All right. So from the tight end problem to the quarterback problem that New England has.
I said this turned into the New England show.
Got two Patriots fan on the broadcast. What do you expect?
I'm Josh. I'm an Eagles fan. Man, shut up. Here we go. So we talked about or we teased this, I guess, last week. I do want to preface this so I'm Central Time. So this was 10 minutes before we went on air at 5:50. I realized, oh shit, I didn't make my 50 quarterbacks I'd rather have over Cam Newton list.
Well, about 20 minutes before that, you asked me if we had a show sheet because you didn't see that I sent it to you earlier.
I did.
This guy Joe gets a job and all of a sudden his priorities are out of whack.
Listen, I cannot stress this enough. I show up and talk. I cannot stress that enough. I don't do any research. I don't do anything like that. I show up and talk, and Ryan says I am right more often than not. So, quote from Ryan's mouth that I will continually use. Boom. But we teased last week because I messaged Josh because Cam Newton put out a quote saying that there are not 31 better quarterbacks than me, to which I laughed at and responded with, I'd rather have 50 quarterbacks over Cam Newton. And I have compiled a list of 73. I have made it to 73. 5 of them are rookies, so I'll get the rookies out of the way. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. If you listen to the show, you know how much I hate Alabama quarterbacks coming out of a Nick Saban offense. So Mac Jones says a lot. That's all I'm going to say.
And I'm good with all 5 of those.
Yes. All right. Here we go. And again, this is I did not put this in an order. Again, I made the list starting at 5:50, 10 minutes before we got on air.
Hutch, if you're listening, this is for you, buddy.
Yep.
Because this is where the whole thing started.
I had 73 quarterbacks by 5:57. I compiled a list of 73 quarterbacks in 7 minutes. That's how bad Cam Newton is. And I don't, Mike's shaking his head.
Mike, wait till you hear some of these garbage names, Mike.
Yeah,
70 it's worse.
No way. By the end of the list, we even had Ryan overthinking it.
Ryan.
But I did not realize that coming into week 17, Cam Newton had only thrown 5 touchdowns.
And how many of those were to receivers?
I did not look. I didn't dig that deep in, but probably one.
No, it's bad.
One.
It's really bad.
One was to a receiver.
Even that game where Jacoby Myers had like 30 targets, he didn't even get a touchdown in that game. Yeah. So
Jacoby Myers had more touchdown passes than Cam Newton at one point this season. 74. Jacoby Myers is officially on the list at 74.
Here's what I want to say about Cam, though, is I don't think that it is anything indicative of his talent or IQ as a football player. I mean, I'm sorry. The guy won a championship in college. He's played in the Super Bowl. He's won an MVP award. And I think it's very disrespectful to say that he's not good at football. What I think Cam's problem is
I think it's okay to say he's not good at football anymore.
Well, but what I think the modifier is I think he's still really hurt, and I don't think he healed. And here's why. It sounds like an excuse, but when you watch him throw the ball, it looked like he was winding up to throw a baseball. And if you remember how quickly Carolina just completely cut ties with him, I mean, it was everyone thought they did Wentz bad. No one talks about how bad Cam got soaked by Carolina after everything, right? They just kind of gave up on him and went for Teddy Bridgewater, who, yes, is better, but by how much? So I think what's happening is there were a lot of teams that were scared off in his medicals. And of course, Belichick, being typical cocky Bill Belichick, was like, what? I could get him for only $7 million and that's with incentives? Why not? And they just looked past the medical part. So I truly would like to see, I just Cam in another situation. I don't know. I'm not ready to completely give up on him. I mean, if he's going to keep throwing like that, I will. But I just think it's unfair to say he's not good. And the 73, that is just absolutely absurd. You can't honestly believe
you've only heard 5 of the names so far.
It's so bad.
73. Listen. And I've said this. Cam Newton will go down as the best running quarterback of all time. There's no doubt in my mind he'll go down as the best running quarterback of all time. From 2011 to 2015, Cam Newton was a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. You can't argue that. After 2015, when he bitched out trying to die for the football and Von Miller recovered that fumble, he's never been the same. Never been the same. And then 2018, after shoulder surgery, wasn't the same. Another shoulder surgery, still not the same. He got 2 shoulder surgeries on his throwing shoulder. He can't throw the football anymore. He simply can't throw the football anymore. It's not an indictment on who he was. It's an indictment on who he is now. He's not a good football player. And here's the list. Obvious ones. Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady. That's bleh. And then more obvious ones. Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Stop me if you want to argue any of these, by the way. Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger, Deshaun Watson. We're at 12. Jacoby Brissett, AJ McCarron, Mike Glennon, Gardner Minshew, Ryan Tannehill, Drew Lock, Brett Rippon, Chad Henne, Matt Barkley, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Dak Prescott, Andy Dalton, Ben motherfucking DiNucci, Daniel Jones, Colt McCoy, Jalen Hurts. I had to add that in there. Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, the GOAT,
That
Kyle
surprises
Allen.
me you put Wentz on that list because you've been dogging him all year.
Can Carson Wentz throw the football more than 2 yards down the field? That's basically the criteria for this
He
list.
barely hit the ocean with a beach ball standing in it at this point.
Yeah, well, Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, Mitch Trubisky. Trust me, Carson Wentz was a tough one to put on this list. Mitch Trubisky, Nick
But
Foles.
Brett Rippon just flowed right out.
Yeah, I don't know. That one I really had a hard time keeping my mouth shut on the Brett
Rippon.
AJ McCarron was bad, but Brett Rippon.
He has bloodlines, damn it.
The dude tore up the Jets. Get out of here.
I mean, so did Cam, if we're being honest.
Cam was a struggle. Rippon tore up the Jets. Also, Rippon is undrafted.
But
yeah,
Cam was a free agent.
So because he was undrafted, I don't know.
Oh, it gets worse.
I can't get behind that one.
It does not get where we are.
There's one name that I'm waiting for, but keep going.
Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Taysom Hill. Oh, that one hurt too. Blaine Gabbert also hurt. Teddy Bridgewater, PJ Walker, Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray, Jimmy Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Jameis Winston, John Wolford, Danny Etling, Kirk Cousins.
Danny Etling. What?
Yeah, Danny Etling.
Is it just because that epic preseason run that he had that everyone was?
It's all it takes for Joe, man. It's all it takes.
I thought Danny Etling was working at Stop and Shop, and now we're starting him
Danny,
over.
Danny,
Still not the worst one.
Danny Etling has a longer career, long rushing touchdown than Cam Newton does.
Wow. Okay. All right.
And Danny Etling can actually throw the football. Kirk Cousins, Jordan Love, Jake Browning, Garrett Gilbert. Here's your guy, Jeff Driscoll.
Jeff Driscoll, for Christ's sake.
The dump truck, baby.
I think Lindellion's put him up to this.
Listen,
I don't hate that one. I don't hate that one actually.
Thank
Oh,
you.
shut up, Mike.
Thank you.
That was the one where I got mad.
Actually, Jeff Driscoll actually has legs and he can quickly throw. But I will give you Driscoll. Who is Jake Browning? Who is that?
Jake Browning. He was an undrafted free agent out of Washington. Remember that year Washington
He's
got
in Minnesota, I believe.
Remember that year Washington got the 4 seed in the college football playoff and Alabama stomped them? Jake Browning was their quarterback.
Yeah, Jake Browning.
Yeah.
So Jake Browning
that was John Ross's big year, and then that's what propelled him into the top 10.
So Jake Browning. I'm glad Mike is on my side with Jeff Driscoll. I appreciate you. Jake Luton. And I do want to say, I am 100% real on this list. Like, this is not like clickbaity. This is not me just throwing names out there. 1,000% I'd rather have these guys start an NFL game over Cam Newton. 1,000%. No doubt in my mind. You can shake your head all you want, Ryan. You know I'm right. Deshaun Kaiser, who I just found out was still employed in the NFL. Mason, I have half a head. Rudolph. Dwayne Haskins. That one hurt. Case Keenum, Trace McSorley. I would rather have
that
Trace
one
McSorley
didn't hurt. I'm sure. Yeah,
any day of the week. Joe Flacco, Jake Fromm. Joe Flacco played better head-to-head against Cam Newton.
Yeah, and
run that through your head.
Played better than Darnold at times last year too. So
run that through your head.
So.
Jake Fromm. I'm going to save this guy for last. Brandon Allen, Ryan Finley, Chase Daniel, David Blau. And my last name, you ask? Well, it's John Gruden's favorite quarterback, Nathan Peterman. Now, listen, hold on, listen.
The GOAT, baby!
No, listen.
Did you even say Mariota? Or do you not?
I did. No, I said Mariota.
Throws it into the ground and not constantly to opposing defender.
True.
So that's
hold on. There's a reason I saved Peterman for last. I did say Mariota. Okay. It was Carr, Herbert, Mariota, Taylor. That was that list right there. So Mariota's in there. I put Nathan Peterman not for the fact that he is anywhere near better than Cam Newton, strictly for entertainment value. That's the only reason I want Nathan Peterman on the field, because entertainment wise, I'd get a better laugh out of watching Nathan Peterman throw interceptions to the opposing team than I would watching Cam Newton make me want to jump off my balcony and flip tables throwing the football 20 yards short of a receiver.
I do enjoy that Jared Stidham and Brian Hoyer didn't make the list.
No, literally. Literally. The Patriots employed the 3 worst quarterbacks in the NFL last year. That bar none. Brian Hoyer, who has been in the league since World War II, didn't understand to throw the football out of bounds with 7 seconds left in no timeouts against Kansas City.
I have another name I want to throw.
What are you doing? You
might have said it. RG3.
He was actually not on the depth chart list that I was looking at.
So would you?
Yes.
Oh.
That was.
Oh, that made you think.
Yeah, no, I'm not too.
I know you're not. So that's why I
because RG3 also can't hit receivers. I'm literally, the criteria was, have you ever hit a receiver in the chest? And basically all of these guys have hit a receiver in the chest at least once in their career. That's mostly the criteria for this. Actually, the number one criteria was,
are you not Cam Newton?
Are you not Cam Newton? And am I gonna like feel pain watching you throw the football? Every time I watched Cam throw the football, it felt painful. And Lee brought it up. It felt like he was trying to throw a giraffe. That's it. It's exactly what it felt like.
Which has now been reposted on Twitter, by the way.
Thank you.
I love that picture.
It is literally he had to, and Mike, you brought it up that he had to cock so far back and use his entire body momentum to throw a 5-yard stop route.
It looked like it hurt. I honestly feel bad for him. Like it's you actually look at it last year, and it was alluded to in a lot of the sports talk shows up here too, that he was kind of playing through the pain. And again, it sounds like an excuse, but I do agree. I don't think that magically his shoulder's going to get better.
Never. Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
I don't know. I mean, he's somebody who's a gamer, and obviously, he was a very good football player at one time, but I guess there are a lot more quarterbacks that I probably would take right now over Cam Newton. But God, not Danny Etling. I can't.
All right, fine. 72 quarterbacks. 72 quarterbacks, not Danny Etling.
Well, we added RG3, so it's 73 now.
70. All right. So just to tell you some of the names that I left off. 4th string quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, Davis Webb.
I remember.
Reed Sinnett and Jake Rudock of the Dolphins. Jarrett Stidham, Brian Hoyer, and Jacob Dolegala of the Patriots. No clue who that is. James Morgan and Mike White of the Jets. Add another one to the list. Tyler Huntley of the Ravens. We can add him onto the list.
He was an intriguing guy that I was keeping an eye on.
I talked about him in our QB show last year. Yeah. I like Huntley coming out.
Ryan's just so attached to Cam Newton because he put him as a stream of the week one time, and I told him that he was going to be wrong about it. Everyone on Club Fantasy is 0 for fucking 3 picking Cam Newton. When are we going to learn? When are we going to learn, ladies and gentlemen? When?
I think we learned.
Not yet.
We didn't learn though.
He's already my stream of the week for week 1.
I don't know if we've done this before, and I don't mean to go down a path here, but Joe, I'm really interested to see who is your Who do you want starting for the Pats next year at quarterback?
Oh, I think I asked this 2 weeks ago. I already forget who the answer is.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, it
And
was
that's
Jimmy
what I
Garoppolo.
said.
I hate my answer, but I want Jimmy Garoppolo because the one time he's been good has been in New England's offense. I hate it. I'm gonna hate myself by week 9 when
he's gonna get hurt in 5 weeks. So there's that.
So
I'm gonna hate myself for
I
it.
find it interesting. Some beat reporter for the Patriots came out and said Jimmy Garoppolo is plan A for the Patriots.
Is it Ben Volen? Because he's
I
a
don't
guy
care.
you just want to punch.
But I want to rewind. I want to go to the other side of this. What is the scenario where San Fran is moving Garoppolo at this point?
If
Like,
they
low,
get Deshaun Watson.
Low.
is that the only one? That's what I was wondering because I don't.
Low.
The only
It's
way I
low.
can see it is if they end up, and I don't know if it's really going to happen, but say somebody like Lance or someone sitting there, in the
Okay.
first, they're able to grab them, and then it's a draft day trade. But I mean, you're right, Ryan. There's no, unless they go out and get another quarterback, I don't see how. Originally, I thought that they were just going to cut bait and then just go hard after someone like Stafford or something. I had Stafford pegged for San Francisco, as a lot of people did. But at this point, I 100% agree with you. I don't see how we can get him from San Francisco. They can't even offer another quarterback in exchange.
Yeah, I was on with the Fantasy Whisperers this past Monday, and I found it very interesting that somewhere in New England's organization, they're calling Jimmy Garoppolo Plan A. And I'm like, he doesn't play for you, and there's no path to him playing for you that I see outside of Josh. It's the most common path is that they somehow land Deshaun Watson. The whole thing just seems very strange to me that you're banking on a quarterback that his current team has said our plan for 2021 is Jimmy Garoppolo.
It's hubris. Sorry, it's hubris. And that's the thing with Belichick. And this is what upset me over the past couple off seasons. And he was getting lauded for bringing Cam Newton in, but Cam fell into his lap. That was not his plan.
That's a good point.
Jared Stidham. And otherwise, I didn't know what they were going to do if Cam didn't. I mean, it still didn't work out, but it was still something that he could say, oh, no, well, at least I got Cam Newton. It just didn't work out. What happens is, and it really annoyed me when it said the Patriots were in on trade talks with Stafford and Wentz. No, they weren't. They made a call. They heard how much was going to be needed, and they were out. So they were never in those talks because Belichick is still so confident that he is going to figure it out, and it's getting so hard in the NFL to make these moves. I don't know what they're going to do if they don't draft a quarterback or if they're not willing to actually give up assets in order to get one for once.
Listen. So unrealistically, Jimmy Garoppolo. Realistically, current guys in the NFL free agent, Jameis Winston. That's realistic for me. I think Jameis Winston. I wouldn't hate. Actually, I take that back. I would hate Andy Dalton, but I feel like for some reason he would do well here.
Is he a free agent?
He is a free agent.
Yeah, he only signed a 1-year deal in Dallas.
And it would never happen, but a trade within the division. I think Sam Darnold is still a decent quarterback. I wouldn't hate Sam Darnold. Listen, the perfect Bill Belichick guy is there. He played D2 college football, and that's Trey Lance. That's the perfect Bill Belichick guy. Draft Trey Lance.
Run. I think, it's interesting because a couple years ago, apparently they were in on Lamar Jackson too, even though they passed up on him twice.
Even though they traded away on that pick.
But I mean, so I don't know how interested they really were, but maybe they're finally, they do want to adapt to more of that, mobile quarterback type scheme. And if they do, I want to make one suggestion.
Go ahead.
For mine, just so I can get it in there. And I'm dead serious about this. I think the best option for them, I want Gardner Minshew. Give me Gardner Minshew here.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Immediate.
Joe might join the mustache club.
No,
they
never. I look like that creepy. Listen, I look like a creepy dude that pulls up to you in a white van if I grow a mustache. Yeah,
so
no.
you've just described my life.
Yeah,
I mean,
Ryan pulls up to you, asks if you want some candy, and
I do want to throw another name out because Joe didn't like it when I threw it out, Mike. But I'm not a Patriots fan. But there was a name I think they should go after, and that's Marcus Mariota.
I didn't say I didn't like that.
I don't think you cared for it when I brought it up last time. So.
Here's why they won't do it. Because he makes $10 million a year and they wouldn't even pay Cam that amount of money. So, but I think that Marcus Mariota is the type of fit. I do think they want a mobile guy. I mean, they kind of changed that whole system. They just got Trent Brown again in a great trade. They want to kind of, again, establish the run. And I
feel like McDaniels could help Mariota with some of the things he needs to work through. So
my dream is that they trade everything in the world to get up and go get Justin Fields, but that's not going to happen. So
Wow. We
that's
are
my
on
dream.
very different wavelengths.
Yeah, he's my QB1. I'm sorry.
Wow.
He is
Wow. He
absolutely-
he played at Ohio State, right?
Yeah. What does that mean? What does the Ohio State thing mean?
Joe believes that
You
if
have
a
to-
school hasn't produced a position, they will never produce a position.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just heard the same excuse for DeAndre Swift this morning. Someone brought up Javid Best as a reason why. I'm like, what? I just don't
Wait,
get
didn't
that.
DeAndre Swift play at Georgia?
He did.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is why
And Detroit has ruined running backs for
There's
years.
absolutely nothing.
Oh,
to do.
so they're worried about landing spots versus colleges. So
No, I'm just saying. I don't think it has anything to do with anything.
no. I'm not saying you
does.
do. I'm saying the person who you had the argument with, they're doing the opposite of what Joe is doing. Joe is saying where they come from matters. The person you were arguing with is saying where they end up matters. So
Well, yeah, no, but then what I'm saying is they're bringing up
it's all
past
trash.
players that have nothing to do with the current.
Oh.
I don't know. I just never understood that whole
Yeah,
lot.
so
Is there another
John-
reason you don't like Fields besides him going to Ohio State?
Ohio State, wasn't he a 1-year starter? Like,
No, he started last year too.
you did start to. Okay, listen. To me, just doesn't feel like the guy. Again, I don't do research. He just doesn't feel like the guy.
Fair
He
enough.
doesn't feel like the guy. Ryan,
You're so
Ryan,
better than you went to Ohio State. Come on, man.
quote, I'm right more often than not, Ryan. That's quote. I will continue to use that. But it's
I've seen a lot of Mac Jones to New England talk. Too.
I will throw up.
With Saban's relationship with Belichick could very well happen.
We got
I
right
will throw up. There are two guys in this draft, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. They're both not going to big schools and are more traditional than new age. Because they do still sit in the. I understand Trey Lance still sits in the pocket and throws the football, correct, before he tries to run. So that's from what I understand. So there's your more traditional, but also new age guys where they're actually mobile. Mac Jones is a statue. Oh, and he benefited from Alabama receivers.
Yeah, he's not going to have any receivers. in New England.
We currently have Mike's favorite wide receiver one in the NFL, Tamir Bird. I don't even. What is our current depth chart? Let me pull up.
What they need
Robbie
to do.
Myers, N'Keal Harry. I think Bird's actually a free agent. So.
It's stupid to take Mac Jones, but it's not because of Mac Jones. It's due to the fact that there are so many other needs that they have, and especially with the aging defense.
Well, but at the end of the day, you're not going to win without a quarterback.
What? Hold on.
That's true. That's true. But at the same time, what you have to do is this. So I wanted to bring this up earlier. Sorry.
Go ahead.
When we were talking about Dak Prescott, yes, I do believe he should have been paid. But we all know that the secret to success in the NFL is to win a Super Bowl on the rookie contract, right?
Yep.
So what you need to do in order to win is you have to build up your team around it. And I can't see Belichick taking someone like Mac Jones at 15. I would love to see them get like a Caleb Farley, a Surtain or something if he's there. I know a lot of people think it's crazy to take a corner, but Gilmore isn't going to be sticking around much longer. It's coming off a big injury. J.C. Jackson, we've seen, can't be a number one corner, but is a solid 2. Devin McCourty's aging out. Jason McCourty's aging out. So I think they need to spend on the defensive side of the ball with that first pick. And like I said, send a 4th-round pick for Gardner Minshew. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like it's better
You
than
could probably get Minshew for less than a 4th, honestly.
But that's what I mean. And so it's like I just can't see them taking Matt Jones. And I honestly think it would be stupid. Or any quarterback that high. They have too many other needs.
I completely forgot. Gunnar Olszewski still employed by the Patriots, so the true wide receiver one
It's
in New England. My boy Gunnar Olszewski. All right, let's end here. So this is a tight end show. We should probably end on a tight end. Let's talk. And this is a guy Josh knows all too well, and also a guy that Josh believes is not going to be in his current uniform that he was in last year. What's going on with Zach Ertz, Josh?
Oh, no. I don't think there's any way in hell he returns to Philly. I think they're just trying to move on from these like aging vets and clear as much cap space as they can to get under. I mean, they're still 20 some odd million over the cap. And I think they have to have it set within the next 5 days. So
I was wondering why they wouldn't have let him go yet.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, what they're going to try to do is restructure. I mean, they've already they're working to restructure Brandon Graham. They've gone through and restructured some other people. They've restructured Jason Kelce, I know, who said he's going to come back for this year. Lane Johnson's already restructured. I mean, this is what Harry Roseman does. He just kicks the can to future years, and that's how we ended up in this problem to begin with. But with Zach Ertz, you already have a tight end one there in Dallas Goedert. He's proven that he can be productive as a receiver. He's a solid blocking tight end. The biggest issue with Goddard has been availability. But the second part of that equation, Richard Rodgers was great as a tight end too for them. So you don't need to pay Zach Ertz more money than what he's already making. So if you can get out of his deal for the type of savings that they need, I think it's a worthy move for them. The talk of Kyle Pitts at 6, I think is dumb, but that's just me. Not saying I don't love Kyle Pitts as a prospect, but kind of to your point, Mike, when you have a roster with so many holes, tight end is one of the last things that I'm looking at, especially when I already have a solid tight end there.
It also doesn't make sense with Jalen Hurts. He's a guy. What's crazy is people don't realize how much he goes down the field. I mean, he had one of the highest, air yards per throw, in the entire league. So I don't.
He was the same way in college,
right? And I don't think Hurts fits with him, even though he did have. I just saw 7, and then 6 targets in weeks 14, 15, and 16. So. But he just didn't do much with those.
That's because they didn't have any wide receivers, dude.
Right. But that's what I mean. He still didn't do much with those targets, and I just don't think he fits very well with a guy like Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, the most logical sense is Indy. His relationship with Reich being the previous offensive coordinator, obviously Carson Wentz being there. If Wentz has any say, I think that's a great landing spot. Outside of that, maybe Washington. I mean, you saw it with Djax when he first left Philly. The first place he went was Washington. I'm going to stick it to my former team. Hey, if they move on from Ingram, Zach Ertz in New York with the Giants, that could play into it as well. So,
well, that kind of leads me to the next question I was going to ask about this is, do we think Zach Ertz still has something? There's been a bunch of things where his yard per reception, yards per target have considerably dipped over the last 4 years. It's a keep stepping down sort of thing, to where I do think they move on as well. My biggest question was, and you kind of answered this already, Josh, do you think they'll go out and try to get another tight end?
I think they will, but I don't think it's going to be someone high profile like Pitts at 6.
Okay.
That's just me personally.
Just do we see him at all with the Bears? His wife plays for the Chicago Red Stars.
I think that could definitely play into it if they move on from Jimmy Graham.
That would break Twitter's heart.
Oh yeah, all the Cole Kmet truthers
ruin Twitter. Woo!
I think that could definitely make sense if they move on from Jimmy Graham. I mean, Graham has kind of played that mentor role to Kmet, and I don't know if Kmet is ready. I don't know very many second year tight ends that really pop. It is really, unless you are going to be a superstar in this league. Gronkowski popped in year 2. Kittle popped in year 2. Like, these are guys, again, that we talk about consistently as great tight ends. Kelce even popped in year 2, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know, because I wasn't like the biggest Cole Kmet fan. I didn't see a ton of like, oh yeah, this guy's like a future legit top 5 tight end in the league. I didn't really see that from him, but I know a lot of, opportunity is the biggest thing. But I could definitely see Ertz going somewhere else and teaming with another tight end. So,
Ryan, thank you for laughing at my my joke there. Appreciate you, buddy.
I love that you're willing to die on that hill.
All those great tight ends like Tyler Eifert that have come out of Notre Dame and really done a lot in the NFL.
Again with the college thing.
Yeah,
like Anthony Fasano.
Man.
Name me one good Nick Saban quarterback.
One good Nick Saban quarterback.
One good Nick Saban quarterback in the NFL. Name me one. Thank you for your silence.
Actually, here we go. Tua Hurts. Jury's still out.
Tua, okay. First off,
Hurts technically played for Saban before he went to Oklahoma, so I'm gonna count that because I'm gonna cheat.
Counting it. Hurts still counts.
Hurts would hit the broadside of a barn under Nick Saban, and jury's out on Tua. So we're looking at AJ McCarron as his best ever quarterback that he's ever coached.
Elite.
But let's look
but at the same token, he's never had to recruit 5-star quarterbacks because he recruits 5-star everything else. He just needs quarterbacks that don't make mistakes.
Right, game managers. Right, which and they're not gonna blow you away. But I just the college thing, I don't understand. I mean, Tom Brady went to the same school as Drew Henson, as Denard Robinson, who was at their quarterback there. I mean, so it's like,
listen,
don't get the school thing. I mean, is Carson Palmer the same player as Matt Barkley?
Listen,
they both went to UFC. So what?
Hold on. There's always anomalies. There's always anomalies, right? There's always an exception to the rule. Name me a good running back out of TCU.
Daniel
Tomlinson.
Okay, who else?
You can do that with every school.
You can do that with every school in every position, Joe.
I don't
that's the point. You scout the player. You don't scout the school. You scout the player.
Yeah,
you scout the program and the coach. NC State has 3 NFL quarterbacks right now. Well, one of them just retired.
Yeah, and has the same coach that is there currently coached every single one of those quarterbacks.
That's Phillip Rivers came into the league 20 years ago. It's not the same coaching staff. Again, it just so happens.
It's the program. It's who you attract.
No, it doesn't. It has absolutely nothing.
It's who you.
So by your logic, then Zach Wilson is going to be great because Steve Young once played at BYU.
No, I just think Zach Wilson's going to be good.
Okay, so you're scouting the player, not the school.
Yeah. I pick and choose my arguments. Get the fuck out of here.
Joe logic, Mike.
I pick and choose my argument. I pick and choose. Jalen Reagor's going to suck because there's never been a good wide receiver out of TCU. Tell me I'm wrong.
I didn't like Jalen Reagor to begin with, so I'm
Thank you. Because why, Mike? Why? You want to know where he went? You want to know where he went? He went to TCU, which is a dog shit school that's never recruited good receivers. You know who they recruited? Josh Doxson. That's how bad. I'm just saying.
Antonio Brown went to Western Michigan.
Yeah.
Central Michigan.
Central, excuse me. But
Corey Davis also went to Central Michigan.
Jerry Rice went to Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, exceptions.
Terrell Owens went to like Savannah State or some weird thing like that.
That's at HBCU, so I think that's kind of a little different. That's different. That is 100% different. HBCU from a Power 5 school, that's definitely different. There's a little more pride in HBCUs than Alabama. Let's throw that out there. So that's it holds up. The argument holds up. I don't care if any of you believe it. The argument
it holds 100%. Up every time until you find someone who was the first one to come from their school.
Exactly.
And what do I say, Ryan? There's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, every one of those 100 or so guys we could name are an exception to.
Name me one good quarterback outside of Tom Brady that's come from Michigan.
Bob Greasy.
I think I play this game.
Bob Greasy was one of the worst quarterbacks to ever win a Super Bowl.
Brian Greasy went to Michigan. I don't think Bob did.
And
Brian's even worse.
That won it.
Brian Greasy is awful.
So hold on. Our best comparison is one of the Greasy boys. That's our best comparison. What I'm saying is there's always an anomaly.
Always. Literally always.
Always. So, Ryan.
So why isn't Mac Jones the anomaly? Why isn't Justin Fields the anomaly?
Because there's never been an anomaly in Nick Saban's offense. So I'm going to go on the fact that
there had never been an anomaly in Michigan. It's the stupidest
correct.
argument. You're talking
correct. So Ryan, up until that point,
I'm done.
So were you on Mahomes because he went to Texas Tech?
I didn't know anything about Mahomes. I had no clue who he was.
But it doesn't matter. Because Texas Tech had never produced a quarterback, right?
Correct. And I still don't believe Texas Tech is going to produce a quarterback. Mahomes played high school football in Tyler, Texas.
This is so dumb.
It's not dumb.
Never go back to high school.
Mike, he played high school football in Texas and went to a. No, hold on. He played high school football in Texas and went to a Texas school.
I told you this show would go longer than 75 minutes because Joe would get on a rant. Maggie, if you're watching, I win.
It 100% holds up. I am going on the fact that Nick Saban is currently batting 1,000 for bad NFL quarterbacks. Who wouldn't put their odds on batting 1,000? That's what I'm putting my odds on. I'm putting my odds on Nick Saban has never coached a good NFL quarterback. That's what I'm putting my odds on right now. And I'm currently batting 1,000 because Nick Saban has never produced a good NFL quarterback. Once that changes, I will change my perspective on that. But right now, Nick Saban has never coached a good NFL quarterback. Why would I change?
I'm going to be on the Nick Saban thing. You're kind of making a point there. I'll give you that. But the jury is still out on both Hurts and Tua. and I'm going to cheat and use Hurts because he technically went to Alabama for a time.
Yeah,
But-
that's a cheat.
Okay, and he
I'll
did
give it
get
to
to a national
you.
championship until he was replaced in that game by Tua. But what I'm saying is that Nick Saban, and for a guy in a system as iconic as Nick Saban, it is kind of funny how he hasn't had more successful quarterbacks in the NFL. But for like a random school, that makes sense because there's enough of a track record and high draft capital associated with Saban enough where these guys are getting taken high enough where they should be better than they've been. But to take a random school and just say, I'm not going to take this guy because he went to X school, I don't know. I just can't really get behind that one. But
That's fair. I don't think TCU's a random. All the schools I'm pointing out are Power 5 conferences. Every single school.
Been a Power 5 school for like 7 years. Like they were nothing until Andy Dalton took them like into the college football playoff or BCS or whatever.
Josh, they've been a Big 12 team. Kansas
Here's
is
a
in
good
the
one.
fucking SEC and they're garbage. They're
I have
still
a great
Power
one
5
for you.
school.
I have a really good one for you. So last year, okay, you had
Kansas
Jonathan
did.
Taylor. You had Jonathan Taylor coming out of Wisconsin. Okay. You had A.J. Dillon coming out of the running back factory that is Boston College, which used to, right? So by your logic, A.J. Dillon would have been the better draft pick than Jonathan Taylor last year.
No, because Wisconsin has produced James White and Melvin Gordon. What are you talking
They have, but
about?
they've also produced Monty Ball.
Yeah, they've also.
What happened to Monty Ball?
Yeah, I get Monty Ball was terrible. Monty Ball sucked.
He
But
set
also-
college records the same way that Jonathan Taylor did.
Who did?
He wasn't terrible.
Monty
Monty
And
Ball.
Rondane. Both of them did.
Monty
Yeah,
Ball was
Rondane.
essentially Jonathan Taylor before Jonathan Taylor
Yeah,
was.
so by your logic,
Jonathan
A.J. Dillon should have been taken over Jonathan Taylor.
No, who else has BC produced?
No. His logic's the other way around. You can't be the first good one from your school.
No, because there have been good ones from BC.
Who?
We were talking in the past. We had.
The last one I remember is William Green.
I mean, offensive lineman university. Too. You can go. You could sit there and you could pick out a college that's produced a certain
James
amount
Conner.
of talented guys, and you're going to place that college over more talented play. I don't know.
It's
I don't know. I'll give you
ridiculous.
the Saban
You're
thing.
trying to work this through, and it's not going to work through because it's Joe.
Exactly.
No, it doesn't
Boston
make sense that
sports
he
radio
listed,
logic, Matt.
It doesn't make sense that he listed Boston College when they haven't produced a top-tier running back.
They had in the past. All right, that was
when
bad.
Wisconsin has produced
bad example.
2 starting running backs.
Yeah, and there's been a couple really big misses too that we just mentioned.
Yes.
Again, so you can
Well,
pick and choose when you want to highlight a school, and you
So-
can look
so-
past those bad guys, but not at other schools.
Right, my logic makes complete sense. There's a 50% hit rate. Yes. There's a 50% hit rate no matter where you are in the first round, whether you're the first overall pick or the 32nd pick. There's a 50% hit rate. The numbers show that it's 50%. So guys like Melvin Gordon, James White, who went to Wisconsin, being drafted after the first round means that they have a less than 50%
Melvin was a
chance.
first round pick.
Okay, Melvin Gordon was a first round pick, so he had a 50-50 shot. James White was a third round pick, I believe. So James White had less than a 50% chance, probably less than a 30% chance to actually hit in the NFL. Wisconsin produced that. Jonathan Taylor. What?
Look at Georgia. So you have guys like Nick Chubb and DeAndre Swift who look great, and then you look at
Todd
Noshawn
Gurley?
Marino, Sony Michel, who had
Todd Gurley?
So Todd Gurley,
yeah,
yeah, that's true.
Done
But
after 5 years.
You can pick out guys that are good and bad at every school. You can do that for literally every school.
But what he's saying is when
I will
you
give you
can't
the
pick
same
out
one.
a
I will give you the same
Yeah.
one. That's the only one.
Since Todd Gurley at Georgia, the only miss has been Sony Michel. That's the only miss. That's the only miss that running back class has had from Georgia. It's been Sony Michel. And Sony Michel flashed for like 8 games in his rookie year, but that's been the only miss out of Georgia. Whenever everyone was like, "Oh, there's a good running back out of Georgia," I fucking believe them because Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, and DeAndre Swift have come out of Georgia. Consecutively, they've come out of Georgia.
I get what you're saying, Joe, but at the same time, I just don't think that you can just bank it on the school. I don't. I think there's hits and misses with every school.
I'll bank on the school. I will 100%. I'll bank on the school that Jalen Reagor went to because TCU has never produced a good wide receiver. I will bank on that all day, every day. all day, every day. And even you, Mike, said you're not even that high on Jalen Reagor. My logic isn't even based on skill. It's simply based on the dude can run one route and that's straight, and he went to TCU. That's the only analysis I need out of Jalen Reagor. Whereas Josh and Ryan are gung-ho on Jalen Reagor, so I can't wait to see him crash and burn. Nothing against you as a person, Jalen, just against you and your job. That's all. Ryan, you want to wrap up the show? Because you seem to be absolutely loving this.
You just have me flabbergasted at this point.
My logic is so on point. You guys just are so close-minded and don't want to see
I
it.
love that Josh, who has done the show longer than any of us, just gives up when you get going.
But hold on.
I'm going to talk. But it's just whatever at this point.
I'm happy. Mike agreed with me on the Saban point.
I've been
trying to convince you and Josh on the Nick Saban point, and all it took was 5 minutes with Mike, and he's like, "Yeah, you're right."
Because you know what it is, Joe? You change the narrative.
He says you may have a point. He never actually said you are right.
Change the narrative. It's the coaching schemes. Because here's the Nick Saban one I'm giving you because he's been there for a long time, and he's somebody who has produced guys who've been taken with high draft capital. But
give him nothing,
say
Mike.
North Carolina State, and you're comparing Phillip Rivers, who was there over 20 years ago, to Jacoby Brissett. That's where you lose me. So I'll give you that.
And that's fair.
Coaching scheme, if it's the same philosophy or the same branch, the same tree, I'll give you that. But if it's two completely different coaching schemes, that's just luck. I mean, that's where I don't think you can make that comparison. And
the only comparison I make there is the allure the school has to draw that position. Guys like Russell Wilson and Jacoby Brissett might have said, "Oh, I was a fan of Phillip Rivers. I want to play at that school." And that may be the school that recruited them as well, because they know we want a good quarterback for our college. And that is the allure. It has nothing to do with NC State is known for producing quarterbacks. It's the allure that those guys attract good quarterbacks to their program. Georgia attracts good running backs to their program. And Marty, Bulldog running backs to the moon, baby. Hell yeah, let's go. Marty's on the fucking train. He's on the rocket ship. That's the only argument.
Lions fan, so he loves DeAndre Swift.
Yes. He didn't say DeAndre Swift. He said Bulldogs running backs. So appreciate you, Marty. That's my argument. I'm glad Mike's like 50% on the train. I'll take it, because Ryan hates me and Josh never talks when I do any of this, because they know I'm right and they don't want to.
No, because there's no arguing with you. There's no rebuttal.
Right.
It's just
because I'm right.
If you keep it within the last 5 years and you want to use
and that's my point.
But I can't take it 20 years back.
If you're trying to go 20, 25 years back when it's a completely different coaching staff, you lose me. Right. If you want to sit here and say, all right, in the last 10 years with this same exact coach, and it's been 1-1-1-1-1, okay, like you have that sense of argument with me. But like when someone like Tua, who was a 5-star high school recruit,
cool.
Same thing with Justin Fields. Cool. Their profiles go back to high school.
Cool.
And we've seen Georgia produce good quarterbacks. Guess where Justin Fields originally signed? Georgia.
Cool.
So he transferred to Ohio State. So if you want to use that same argument, Joe, Georgia produced Matthew Stafford.
Georgia did produce Matthew Stafford. That's
there you
correct.
Go.
So we're talking recency, right? You said in the last 5 to 10 years, Matt Stafford.
But you haven't been. That's the difference.
But I'm using your argument against me. Matt Stafford was drafted in 2009. I'm using your argument against me against you. That's all I'm doing. I'm using your argument. Because by that logic, Georgia doesn't produce quarterbacks, according to you. In the last 5-10 years, Georgia hasn't produced a quarterback. What's Jake Fromm doing?
Hey, Chase Daniels, the most highly paid backup in the NFL. So
Georgia's
he came from Missouri. Never mind.
Backup quarterback.
I'm losing it. I'm thinking of somebody else. Crap.
Oh, Missouri, Drew Lock. Woo! Light him up.
But like I said, there's going to be, I don't know. We're not going to get anywhere on this. We'll go for another.
No, we're not.
We're not.
Thank you, Mike.
Talking to a brick wall.
Smartest thing you've said in a half an hour.
Mahomes should have been undrafted free agent. Mahomes shouldn't even been drafted.
Mike, you're halfway there, and that's all that matters. That's all I care about is you're halfway there. That's all I care about. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Remember when people were saying Jared Goff was the next Aaron Rodgers because they went to the same school? Little did they know Aaron Rodgers was the only.
I didn't hear a single person say that.
Yeah, they did. 100%. 100%. They were saying, oh, the last guy to come out of Cal was Aaron Rodgers. No, there were a lot of other guys that didn't come out of Cal because they weren't that good. Aaron Rodgers is the anomaly for Cal.
Okay.
They did. Sorry, Ryan. If you weren't on the ball back then. But he
Cal's
has
had 3 first-round quarterbacks in the last 15 years, 20 years, I believe. Kyle Bowler was another one.
Who? Hold on, who?
Kyle Bowler.
Who?
Why are you getting him going?
Kyle Bowler? Who the fuck is that?
Wrapping this show up.
He started a couple years.
God, Kyle Bowler must be like Nate Sudfeld.
That was the Brian Billick pick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
8th pick of the first round or whatever.
8th pick of the first round. Yeah. Great. Wow. Kyle Bowler. What a guy.
You would have missed on Josh Allen, too. How many good Wyoming quarterbacks are there?
Oh, Josh Allen wasn't doing himself any favors in year 1, let's be honest.
My goodness. Talk about change.
I like Josh Allen. The
rookie
You shit on Josh Allen every chance you get.
I do shit on Josh Allen every chance. But what did I do this year? I started changing my narrative on Josh Allen after a while. Took a while. I also said that I didn't think Joe Burrow was going to be that great because LSU's never produced a good quarterback, and I immediately changed my tone on that. Immediately. I am willing to change my tone. But for the time being,
the player instead of the school.
Yeah. And Joe Burrow was a great player. I said Joe Burrow's a great player, but LSU has never produced a good quarterback. So that was my only apprehension with him. Right? That was my only apprehension. And I immediately changed my tone. After week 2, I'm like, Burrow's going to be great. Immediately.
Would you not have taken him at 1 last year?
I 100% would have taken him at 1. No doubt would have taken him at 1.
But your narrative was that he wasn't going to be good.
No, yeah, I had one apprehension, and it was his school. I thought Burrow's talent was great, and I had one apprehension, and it was his school.
But you'd still take him at 1, so the school actually does not matter. It's about the player.
The school does matter, but he was by far the best.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh my God, we are talking in circles. This is not good listening.
I think Marty's loving it. So, right.
He's also saying that's a wrap. So let's wrap it up.
All right. Yeah. You can follow Mike at what is it?
At Fantasy Mike BBF. Follow the whole crew over at Ballblast. I mean, Kate and Michelle were on the show a few weeks ago. The wonderful founders of Ballblast Football, and we're doing a lot of stuff. We just hired 3 amazing writers. I know I'm using a bunch of buzzwords here, but they really are incredible writers.
Oh, Victoria's fantastic.
Victoria's amazing. Victoria Geary, Derek, and Matt McCoy as well. So Derek Overby, Matt McCoy is going to be doing a ton of draft work for us. We've got a whole bunch of draft content coming out. He just did an awesome mock draft. You know, Derek just did 3 receivers, third-year wide receiver fake out breakout. So ballblastfootball.com. Definitely go check us all out. You know, we're big fans of Club Fantasy over there, and I know it's likewise. So,
indeed,
go check us out.
All right, I'm not even going to give these 2 guys a shout out on their social medias, but you can follow the Speakeasy at the Speakeasy FF.
They're more important anyway.
Yes, they are more important. The latest episode just dropped on Monday on International Women's Day. New host Linda interviewed Steffi Smalls, the newest member of the FTN network. So head over to the YouTube page, check that out. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. Next week, we have Mark Sessler back on our show from the NFL Network, from Around the NFL podcast. Super excited to have Mark back on. He joined us for our Week 17 show. I believe it was our last show of 2020 was Week 17. Yep. So he'll be joining us in the new year. We're excited to have him join us. Tune in next week, 7 p.m. Eastern for No Pun Intended with Mark Sessler, and be sure to follow Mike and the entire crew over at Ballblast Football. We will see you next week.